Silliest reason that you got punished for? I got accused of cheating on a science test in 6th grade, which I didn't. Teacher made me retake test the next day. I scored higher because I looked up what I didn't know, and she gave me the score of the first time. In 2nd grade, the teacher sat me in the corner during recess because I was talking in a robot voice to my friend. Every week, my teacher sent home a progress report detailing our behavior that week. On that day, my teacher wrote, "Logan had a bad day today. He sat out during recess for talking like a robot." That was the first time I'd ever heard my mom cuss. She just sighed and said, "What a dumb C." I wasn't allowed to use my computer for a week because I hacked my mom's computer. All I did was change the desktop background. That reminds me of the time that my mom tried to ground me from AOL for some infraction, and I changed path of the AOL shortcut on the desktop to a WAV file of Nelson's HAHA from The Simpsons and refused to fix it until I was allowed back on AOL. I think we still have the note from my 4th grade teacher. She cut a piece of her own hair. A single hair fell off my head, and in my boredom I cut it in half with a pair of scissors. My parents yelled at the teacher for trying to punish me for such a stupid reason. I took a book outside to read by myself one day in year 3 at primary school, 7/8 years old. A group of my friends stopped the game they were playing to come and see what I was reading, leaving this one guy who I wasn't really friends with by himself. He got monumentally peed, told the teachers, and at morning assembly the next day it was announced that books were now banned from being taken into the playground, and I got told off for being a bully. Fun freaking times as an 8-year-old. In kindergarten, we were given coloring sheets with a picture of an apple on it, complete with stem and leaf, and told to color it red. So I colored the apple red, the stem brown, and the leaf green. Because that's how they're supposed to be colored, damn it. I got sent to the hall because we were supposed to color the whole thing red and I wasn't following instructions. I maintain to this day that I was right. My kindergarten teacher once made me cry because we were given a sheet with a bunch of pictures on it and told to color the images that began with the letter P. I didn't color the pony, and when she asked me why, I told her it was a foal, and foal doesn't start with the letter P. She told me there was no such thing as a foal, and forced me to color in the pony. Once got written up, had to clean the teacher's room once a week for like 2 months, by a teacher for cussing, on a Saturday, at a park, while not at some weekend event for school. Didn't even know she was there until I said something, not about her, a teacher, and she basically came out of nowhere. Came in that Monday and was called to the front office and given a slip with the punishment. Tried to appeal it to the principal and she basically said that the teacher could do so because she had seniority over me. I got detention in 8th grade because a teacher, who I didn't know, almost ran me over with her car and I road raged at her. This was almost 4 blocks away from my school as I was walking home. I was crossing an intersection, walk sign enabled, when she pulls a crazy left and puts her car about 3 inches from me and my friend. She yells at me first, why I don't even remember. When 8th grade me yells back, I get in trouble by her and the vice principal because I was almost killed. In grade 2, I had a friend called Marcus. He was a troublemaking hack child, but back then I didn't care, and we got along well. Until one incident. We had a teacher called Mrs. Fedorovich, and in the afternoon she'd say goodbye to us all, and we'd all say good afternoon Mrs. Fedorovich in sync. Well, Marcus was sitting next to me and instead, he says good afternoon Mrs. Fedorab and then instantly jumped up with a loud gasp. He said B. That little sucker framed me and I got a week's detention, even after my 6-year-old butt cried and begged to the teacher with my mum. Never forget. In elementary school I was beat up by 3 kids. I told the recess watcher lady, she went and talked to them, came back to me and said if I brought it up to anyone again I would be expelled. Sounds like she didn't want to get in trouble for not paying attention to the playground shenanigans. Family went on a mega family vacation cruise thing, and I was stuck at home because I failed a chemistry class, which I failed intentionally so I could skip this vacation. Long story. 2 days into the vacation, my parents call me up and say that I'm grounded because my cousins were drunk and hungover from drinking. with alcohol that my uncle bought, and that if I were there I would have participated as well. Confusing? It is for me. I got detention in 7th grade for not singing along with the class to Christmas carols. I explained to my teacher that I was Jewish, therefore didn't have a knowledge of the lyrics melody, but she sharply said that my religion has nothing to do with my lack of participation and that everyone knows the words to those songs. Yup. I was accused of plagiarism in high school on a final project for my history class. It was well written. I had a reputation for slacking off and misbehaving throughout high school. My teacher claimed it was written at a college level and I simply was incapable of doing such work, so I was sent to the dean to plead my case. I of course pleaded innocent, because I'm not about to take a bullet for this crap. This was the kind of punishment where I would have gotten my diploma revoked if everything worked out the way they wanted. So what do the idiots do? They make me take an oral exam on my own paper. They have the head of the department, who is a lovely man by the way, sit me down and ask me first to talk about the paper in my own words for 10 minutes, and then he asked me questions about the paper in specific. I shot out every answer and was free to go while they evaluated. A couple days later they tell me that they believe I wrote the paper, and cut me a freaking deal. They won't fail me out of the course and jeopardize my high school career if I accept a whole drop off of a grade for turning in the paper late. The paper was late because it was held in suspension until the investigation was over. I actually did hand it in on time. At that point though I was too shaken and exhausted from the entire ordeal to turn down their offer. TLDR. My school taught me what crappy bureaucratic systems feel like. My mom loves to tell the story of how, on my birthday, my kindergarten teacher took my chocolate bar away during snack time because it wasn't a healthy snack. I became so offended that I marched right out of the classroom, somehow, across the hall to the principal's office and asked the principal's secretary to fire my teacher for stealing. My diplomatic principal offered instead a small carton of chocolate milk in exchange for the candy bar and would speak to Mrs. whoever about taking away a birthday girl's candy. I imagined the offer being made in a very formal fashion with lawyers. My client is prepared to offer the sum of 1 carton of chocolate milk for your candied bar. In pre-kindergarten, age 4-5, we were learning how to write our letters. The teacher did this by covering the glass of a cart projector with sand and drawing the letter with her finger so that it was projected onto the wall. She would then call all of us up one by one to copy the letter and let us go back once we were close enough. The only problem was that I had already learned my letters and how to read at my preschool, and so when she called me up to write the A I drew it in a different style than she had. I had thought she would be proud of me for already knowing the letters. Instead she got mad at me and made me write it again. But I was a stubborn child, and I knew what I had written was correct, because that's how my parents and preschool teacher wrote. So I continued to write my differently styled A. Eventually she gave up on me, and wrote a note home saying she was worried about my progress in school and my ability to recognize patterns. I got grounded for a week because I forgot to put the jar of mayo back in the fridge. My mother would always leave the milk or cheese out, but I could never say anything to her, so I just put it back. However, if I left something out, I would get yelled at. My sister and I had this theory that since we were generally good kids, never stayed out past curfew, didn't go to parties, didn't drink or do drugs, etc., that our parents got bored and had to punish us for really trivial things. My mother is the type of person who says one thing, but will change her mind without notice, so you never know when she'll get angry. I can remember another time when I didn't get punished, but she got really angry with me. I was used to the put things back where they belong rule, so after I used a pair of scissors on the table, which is where I found them, but not where they belong, I put them back in this cup where we kept them. When my mother got back to the table she flipped out because the scissors weren't on the table where she left them. She started yelling and I told her I put them back where they belong, and she started yelling at me even more for not putting them back where I found them. Not to mention, the cup where they were normally kept was like 2 feet away from the table. Sounds just like my mom. I always assumed it was because I was a good kid too. I might as well start a rhyme lab in the basement and actually do something worth getting in trouble for. When I was 9 and my brother was 4, We were bickering in the backyard and he picked up a little white stone from our flower bed and then chucked it at me. Despite the fact that I was on the swinging, the little bastard nailed me in the back of the head. It was just dumb luck that he actually hit me, and my brother is not a child ninja prodigy. But regardless, my head was bleeding and I was going to fricking snitch on his butt. I go running into the house and go before my mother with the typical mom, look at my blood. He made blood spiel. She asked me what happened, but when I told her, she didn't believe me. He's 4 years old, the 6 of swords. There is no way he hit you with a rock if you were swinging. Besides, he's in the playroom. I'll be damned if his little butt hadn't managed to run around the side of the house, shimmy though the dog door, and position himself at the top of the stairs like he'd been there all along. Maybe I disregard the ninja option too quickly. Anyway, I get sent to my room for doing something stupid, probably jumping out of the swing again and trying to blame my dear baby brother for my resulting injuries. It was some BS. In 5th grade I got detention for stepping on an ant. In 11th grade my mom grounded me for watching The Real World because there was a scene where some people were sitting in a sauna or something and they were all wrapped in towels. It was 1987. I was 8 years old. I had been grounded from playing Nintendo by my mom. A common occurrence for me around that age since I was always on the thing. Well, a few hours later she gets home from going on an errand and I give her a pitiful, depressed look hoping she'll unground me, and she says, "Okay, I guess you can play. But you didn't play while I was gone, did you?" For some reason I worded my response, "No way, Jose," and I was telling the truth. I hadn't. However, she had never heard that expression before, apparently, because she replied, "What did you call me? You're grounded." My dad screamed at me for a good half hour and banned me from the computer for being a psycho, all because I didn't want to use a sponge to wash the dishes. I use a rag. You horrible monster. When I was 8 I got a detention for pretending to be a Pokémon. Pokémon cards had been banned at school. Blastoise if anyone's interested. When I was 12, and my sister was 6, she was annoying me in the car, and my mother warned us that if we kept up, she was going to kick us out of the car. My sister kept at it, and I responded in defense, and my mother swerved to the side of the road about 2 miles from our house. She kicked me out of the car, and then drove home with my sister and the groceries. When she came back to get me I was about a mile down the road, and she said that she was sorry about it but she just couldn't handle us arguing anymore. It wasn't my fault, but she couldn't put my 6-year-old sister on the side of the road, though it wasn't any sort of dangerous area of town. My PE teacher made me sit out of a game of basketball because I was smiling while he was explaining the rules. I loved playing basketball. I could see where that would come from if it was a really creepy smile with all 24 teeth showing. Maybe you just like basketball that much. We were in PE class doing the gymnastics unit, so we were in the gym on this really big foam mat that gymnasts do somersaults, cartwheels, etc. on. Since you can jump and get some good air on these things, I thought aloud to nobody in particular, we should play dodgeball on this thing. My exact words. Seriously, those were the only words I said the entire period, except for here when he was calling attendance. My PE teacher took this as a threat to his authority. He ranted for a good 45 seconds about how that he's in charge and I'm not, and how if I wanted to teach PE I had to go to college and get my own PE credentials. I tried to tell him it wasn't directed to anybody and I was just thinking aloud, but he wouldn't have it and made me sit on the side of the gym for the rest of the period. He then gave me a 0 for the day. I ended up apologizing to him after class just because I didn't want to frick up my grade, although I now regret it because I ended up getting a B anyways. I should have told him to frick off. And seriously, who gives a crap about their PE grade? When I was in 2nd grade I went to a very small private school, like 3 kids in 2nd grade and 5 in 3rd, and they were combined. There was a girl named Monica who I remember getting harassed. A 3rd grader Tommy was making fun of her. I remember explicitly doing nothing. Monica starts crying. Teacher comes over and hears story. Tommy gets punished. Going down with the ship, he states, but Mrnifty called her a milkman. That was sufficient enough to get me the same punishment of no recess. When I was in kindergarten, I got put in timeout for sneezing too many times and too loudly one day. The teacher hated me for having an alternative family at a religious school. Maybe if you were a bit more religious, God would have blessed you. Got yelled at and sent to bed without dinner because a mole dug under a fruit tree in the yard. My parents thought I was secretly digging holes in the yard. That's funny. I dug a hole in my backyard a few years ago and my parents thought there were gophers in our backyard. When I was in 3rd grade, the girls' bathroom had 4 stalls and the first one was completely walled in. I thought they must be hiding something really awesome in there. So one day when nobody was in the bathroom, I went in the 2nd stall, stood on the toilet, and peered into the Narnia stall just as a teacher walked in. That was the only time I ever got sent to the principal's office. All for a lousy water heater. In elementary school, I was sent to the principal's office a record 186 times throughout the course of 4th and 5th grade. I had multiple parent-teacher conferences, referrals, and I was even suspended once in 4th grade. This being said, I got in trouble for a lot of stupid crap that happened to me. I will name a few of the stupidest things I got in trouble for, not in any particular order. 1. I was drinking out of the water fountain when my friend tickled me. Obviously, I ended up spitting out all of the water and laughing. The girl in line behind my friend went running to tell the teacher that I spat on the water fountain and I was sent to the principal's office. 2. Two of my friends were joking around and one of them was pretending to choke one another. We were reenacting some scene from a TV show or something. I was laughing my butt off because the scene was so comical. The teacher walks in the room right as this happens and sends me to the principal's office for being cruel and laughing at one boy hurting another. I always wondered why she didn't send my friend, the one who was doing the choking, to the principal's office as well. But I didn't want to ask why aren't you sending him as well and get him in trouble. 3. In 4th grade, a bunch of kids and I were playing Foursquare, which was all the rage back then. I ended up winning the game at the end of recess. One of the kids was mad that I beat him, so at the end of recess, when everyone got into line, he came up behind me and started hitting me. I, of course, started hitting him back. The gym teacher came running and picked me up by my shirt, effectively choking me, which in hindsight I think was definitely illegal. And then sent me to the principal's office. The principal asked me why were you hitting him and I responded, well, if someone starts hitting me, what am I supposed to do, stand there and get beaten? To which he responded yes. So I called her an idiot and I got suspended. 4. In 4th grade, bunch of white trash kids were making extremely archist comments. I am Asian. I told them to shut up. Teacher heard the entire exchange, but sends me to principal's office for saying bad words. I wasn't allowed to say things like shut up or call people stupid or dumb. 5. Had a really fat, old, hairy, gross child predator for a gym teacher in 5th grade. He would slap the girls on their butts and had inappropriate nicknames for each girl, i.e., he called one of the girls boing boing. He would also have them sit on his lap and do other creepy things. I once pointed out that he was really creepy to one of the girls, and they went and told on me. He sent me to the principal's office for saying bad things about a teacher. I had to sit in timeout in 1st grade because I was watching a freaking snowplow out the window. Little did the teacher know, there was a window where timeout was. I watched the crap out of that snowplow while in timeout. Crazy old bad teacher. In kindergarten we got a coloring book on fire safety, and there were many humans to color in. My teacher came up to me as I was coloring and yelled at me a bit because I was coloring every human black. I was a straight A student in one Christmas party at my grandparents'. My father told me he was proud of my progress report, all A's as usual, nothing above a 94, so normal A's, no A+S. My mother all of a sudden was infuriated that she didn't receive the progress report yet. They are separated, snatched it out of his hands, then continued to yell at me for only getting 94s instead of 95s at the least, because then I would be an acceptable A+ student instead of a crappy worthless dumbass teenager. Her words. She also blamed me for the mail being late. In middle school, we had to walk silently back to class from lunch, to lunch too, and two girls in front of me were shoving each other and laughing loudly. As one pushed the other, the one falling pulled the pusher down with her and they started laughing hysterically. I was the only one given detention and almost suspended for pushing them. One summer, I couldn't take living with my mother anymore, so I stayed with my grandparents and father. But my mother would come over daily to yell at me for not walking, feeding the dog, not taking out the trash, not doing the dishes, and for trashing her apartment. I didn't even live there and it was in the next town and I had no car or license to get there. How the frick could I do that? When I was 4, my baby cousin was literally pulling out my hair while we were forced to have a family photo. I was yelled at for crying and then put in timeout. They wouldn't listen to me that the baby was pulling out my hair, and when they pulled me away, you could see the baby had rather large clumps of my hair and was trying to eat it. Another time, my older cousin was always jealous of me. She liked to push me out of pictures when the adults were trying to get both of us in the shot or just me. So when I was all like, "Hey Beaker," my grandmother thought I said B. So my cousin said I really did say B. I was still 4. I protest by saying but I called her Beaker and my cousin yells she said B again. I got my mouth washed out with soap and my grandmother was in earshot of both of us. 6th grade, the person sitting at the desk next to me was a real butt. He was sitting there loudly calling me really nasty names. So I tell him stop being a freaking peckerhead, not knowing what it meant. And he yelled out to the teacher Erulus Chiel called me a peckerhead. The teacher didn't hear him call me all these names. Yet the other students did and they didn't defend me, and I was sent to the counselor's office for some counseling because I needed it for anger issues and I was almost suspended. If I had $10 for every time I got in trouble for no reason, I would be freaking rich. My family blames me for everything because I am not baptized. All throughout school, I got good grades. Straight A's if not straight A+S. But I often skimped on doing busy work if I could get away with it, and usually procrastinated on big assignments. With every report card, the grades came with comments from the teacher, and there was always at least one teacher that put in something along the lines of "I wish they would do all the work." That somehow always signified to my mom that, even thought I was getting perfect grades, I was a horrible student, and I would get lectured and punished like I had just failed all my classes. I was so happy once the teachers realized it was futile and stopped putting comments like that in. Both times I got detentions in school were for stupid reasons. In 1st grade, when I still went to Catholic school, I got held in from recess because I forgot to bow my head when I said the word Jesus. My sophomore year, I got an after-school detention because I had been quietly reading my French book in French class, as opposed to listening to my teacher tell us about the time a hotel she was staying in caught fire. The day before a snowstorm, my 5th grade teacher banned us from using the word snow. Anyone who said it got into detention. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.